Dinosaurs still alive? 1910, New York Herald ran an article about dinosaurs still living in Africa's swamps. Here's a Saturday Evening Post, 1948. There could be dinosaurs still alive in Africa. A big game hunter named Mr. Gobbler returned from a trip to Angola. He announced to the Cape Town newspaper, the Cape Argus, that there was an animal of large dimensions, the description of which could only fit a dinosaur. The natives call it Chippewa. In Central African Republic, they call it Nguri. Roy Mackal went there in 1980 on an expedition. He spent $250,000, went back again the next year, went to that swamp. He said it's the most miserable swamp on planet Earth. The mosquitoes landed on them at the rate of about 1,000 an hour constantly. I mean, like swarms of dust around you. Bloodthirsty mosquitoes. 95 degrees, 95% humidity all the time. As they traveled around the swamp, the natives talked about this animal called Mahamba. He said, what's that? And they showed him a crocodile. Oh yeah, that's the Mahamba right there, Mahamba. He said, how big does it get? They pasted off on the sandbar, 50 feet long. Now, if you're a pygmy, 4'4", a 50-foot crocodile looks really big to you, okay? And everybody says, no, crocodiles, they never get past about 17 feet. Oh, I don't think that's correct. Earlier in the summer of 2005, they killed a 24-foot crocodile in that swamp. Of course, the natives will say, oh, you should see the big ones. The natives also talk about an animal they call Mokele Mbembe. Mokele Mbembe? What on earth is that? Well, if you show them the picture of an apatosaurus, they'll say, yep, that's it, Mokele Mbembe. The natives claim these animals live underwater. They're very rare. Of course, they're in the swamp in Africa, and nobody goes out at night anyway, and there's no lights over there at night. But the animals are seen mostly early morning or late in the evening when they come out, and their favorite plant is the Malombo plant. There's Dr. Mackal holding a Malombo plant. Dr. Mackal was a University of Chicago microbiology professor, and he went over there and studied this carefully and came back and wrote a book called A Living Dinosaur. Now, he believes in evolution, but his book is great about the evidence for dinosaurs still living in African swamp. They found footprints of the creatures. A missionary friend of mine was there for 43 years as a missionary, Eugene Thomas. He's in Ohio now. Here's his phone number. Call him up. He was there for 43 years. He said, I had 2 pygmies in my church. It killed one and ate it. Dinosaurs. There have been reports of these creatures in that swamp for a long time. There's a lake in Scotland called Loch Ness. Has anybody ever heard of Loch Ness? Loch Ness is a huge lake, 24 miles long, 1 mile to 1.5 miles wide, up to 900 feet deep. Loch Ness is big enough that everybody on planet Earth could go drowned in it at the same time. It would hold the entire population of the world. 6 billion people would fit in that lake. It's huge. In 1933, a roadbed was cut into the side of the mountain, because before 1933, if you wanted to see the lake, you got to climb over the mountains or go upriver 7 miles in your boat. So not many people went there. Very sparsely populated. In 1933, the first year the road was put in, there were 52 separate sightings of the Loch Ness Monster. This author said there have been 9,000 reported sightings today. Now that was back in the 1960s when this book was written. Today it's over 11,000 reported sightings of the Loch Ness Monster. 11,000. Of course, some are fakes and frauds, okay? I wouldn't trust the, Weekly World News, where they got all this weird stuff in there. But Sir Peter Scott's a member of Parliament. He said he saw it. He believes it's a plesiosaur. Almost everybody that sees it says it's this animal right here, a plesiosaurus. Long neck, 4 big flippers. One guy wrote a book and he said, some people think Nessie is a plesiosaur. There's one thing wrong with this theory. Plesiosaurs are believed to have become extinct 70 million years ago. Oh, is that what's wrong with the theory? I think this evolution theory has got to be the biggest hindrance to scientific research there's ever been. Okay? You look at the facts, forget your theories, look at the facts and come up with your conclusions. Now the Bible also talks about Leviathan, but that's a whole other story. We'll cover Leviathan some other time. So basically, God made everything in 6 days. Dinosaurs lived with man. People have killed most of them. There could be a few still alive. And Christians need to quit worrying about dinosaurs and start using them for God's glory.
That was just 30 minutes out of a 2-hour presentation. There are many more examples of unexplained creatures in the full version, such as giant humans 9 to 12 feet tall, animals thought to be legends like the Thunderbird or the Loch Ness Monster, You'll probably be surprised at how Dr. Hovind strips away the fantasy and exposes the realities of cryptozoology, or the study of hidden animals. A contemporary definition of the word fraud is something intended to deceive, or deliberate trickery intended to gain an advantage. Now, if something was proven wrong more than 100 years ago, why would somebody teach it today as truth? When a so-called scientific discovery is proven to be deliberate fraud, why isn't it removed from the curriculum? What is the real motivation in continuing to deceive? In this final segment, Dr. Hovind will give you an eye-opener on the lies in the textbooks.
The Bible says in the Ten Commandments, thou shalt not bear false witness. Don't lie. Proverbs says, a false witness shall not be unpunished. He that speaketh lies shall not escape. Now, I like science, and I collect public school textbooks. I have hundreds of them from many, many countries, from clear back from 1880, I believe, to 2005, textbooks. I'm not against science. I am, however, against lying to kids. Now, in the first 3 videos, we talked about how students are being lied to about the Big Bang. It didn't happen. They're being lied to about the age of the earth. It is not billions of years old. They're being lied to about the cavemen. There's never been a caveman. They're being lied to about the dinosaurs. They did not live millions of years ago. I am not trying to get evolution out of the public schools. I'm not. I think any theory should be allowed to be taught, if you don't have to lie to support your theory with false evidence, okay? I am not trying to get creation into the schools. I am, however, trying to get lies out of the textbooks. I think we'll find if we take the lies out of the books, there's nothing left to support evolution. Wisconsin has a law that requires textbooks to be accurate. So does Alabama. Textbooks shall be adequate and current. Texas has a law that says instructional material shall be factual. Go Texas. Okay? Florida has a law that requires accuracy of instructional materials, and the commissioner is responsible to remove books that are not accurate. California says textbooks shall be factually accurate and reflect current and confirmed research. Okay? Minnesota says the teacher shall not deliberately suppress or distort subject matter. The problem is, none of those states enforce their own laws. This is a textbook from about 100 years ago. It says, God created the heavens and the earth in 6 days. Prayer is a duty, but it's vain to pray without a sincere desire of heart. God governs the world in infinite wisdom. You believe that's a public school textbook? Well, here's one today. Evolution is fact, not theory. Birds arose from non-birds and humans from non-humans. No person who pretends to any understanding of the natural world can deny these facts. This textbook has over 100 pages where evolution is talked about. There's not one single mention of creation. They want to present one view only. It's called indoctrination, not education. Is there anybody here that thinks teachers or textbooks should be allowed to use outdated or false information just to get students to believe a theory? Would that be a good idea? No. Okay. Anybody here that thinks teachers that deliberately lie should be fired? Okay. Is there anybody here that thinks textbooks with lies should be banned or the lies torn out of the book? Think that'd be fair? All right. Well, buckle up, hang on, let's go. It's always amazed me how 2 people can look at the same thing and come to opposite conclusions of what they are looking at. You know, 2 people can look at Grand Canyon. One of them believes in evolution. He looks at the canyon and says, wow, look what the Colorado River did for millions and millions of years. The Bible-believing Christian stands there, looks at the same canyon, and says, wow, look what the flood did in about 30 minutes. Now, how was that canyon formed, huh? Textbook says over millions of years, the Colorado River carved the Grand Canyon from solid rock. Oh, now, hold on a second, okay? It's a fact Grand Canyon exists. I've been there a bunch of times, studied. I taught earth science for 15 years. I love studying Grand Canyon. There are 2 interpretations of how it got there. The evolutionists will say it formed slowly with a little bit of water and lots of time, like, you know, billions of years. The creationists will say, no, it formed quickly by lots of water and a little bit of time, like a big flood in the days of Noah. And the guys who believe in evolution are always trying to erase the line between their interpretation and try to include it as if it is part of the fact. No, it's just your interpretation, guys, okay? This textbook says, the Colorado River has cut through layer upon layer of rock over millions of years. Well, now, hold on a minute. This textbook says, the Colorado River cut through 2,000 meters of rock, exposing sediment layers like huge pages in the book of life. Scan the canyon wall from rim to floor and you look back through hundreds of millions of years. I don't think so. I was in a debate one time, and this atheist said, "Hovind, you're so stupid. Don't you know it took millions of years to carve the Grand Canyon?" I said, "Well, sir, there's a couple things you ought to learn about Grand Canyon. If you built a dam across Grand Canyon, a huge lake would fill in behind it, covering several states, okay? I mean, take a lot of dirt to build a dam, but if you could build a dam across that canyon, you'd have a really big lake. Actually, some of the water from Wyoming drains through the Grand Canyon. It has a huge drainage pattern." I said to this professor, I said, "Sir, there's a couple things to consider about this canyon." I said, "These two red lines indicate what's called the snow line, okay? Between those two red lines is a ridge that gets about 6,900 to 8,500 feet above sea level. Now, the river enters the canyon at the far right over there at 2,800 foot elevation. The river flows downhill for 270 miles, comes out the other side. If you look at it from a side view, a schematic view, it'll look like this. The river comes in 2,800 foot elevation. The ground rises up while the river goes down for 270 miles. I said, "Now, sir, there's a few things you ought to consider about this canyon." I said, "Did you know the top of Grand Canyon is higher than the bottom?" He said, "Obviously." I said, "Sir, did you know the river only runs through the bottom?" He said, "Well, yeah." I said, "Sir, did you know the top is higher than where the river enters the canyon by over 4,000 feet? He got a dazed look on his face like a calf looking at a new gate. I said, "Sir, did you know rivers don't flow uphill in Tennessee? There's no delta. Where's the mud that washed out of Grand Canyon? Nobody has a clue, okay? That river did not make that canyon. Grand Canyon's a washed out spillway. There used to be two big lakes, Grand Lake and Hopi Lake. The lakes are long gone, but the beaches are still there. You can still see the beach line. They got too full and went over the top and washed out that canyon in a hurry. Any farmer that's ever built a dam to hold water for his cows will tell you, once the water goes over the top of the dam, it's all over with. That's why they guard the levee like crazy during flood seasons, don't they? If you look at Grand Canyon, it's pretty obvious it's a washed out spillway. Almost all rivers around the world come together at what's called acute angles, less than 90 degrees. I mean, the rivers merge and keep going the same, general direction. If you look at Grand Canyon, the rivers on the lower left are indeed merging at acute angles, less than 90 degrees. But if you look at the upper right, the rivers are flowing backwards. Why would they do that? The rivers run backwards, hit the main channel, turn around, and come back out the other way. It's called a barbed canyon. There aren't many places like this on the planet. Well, this is evidence that a lake is draining, and as the water's running off the spillway backwards into the channel, it turns around, or off the dam. Water runs off the dam into the low place, turns around and comes back out through the crack, through the breach in the dam. Grand Canyon was not made by the Colorado River over millions of years. That is one of the lies you kids are going to face in your textbook. It's just not geophysically possible for that to happen. Now, are there any farmers or vets in the crowd that might know what this machine is? What is that, brother? That's a calf puller. That's a what? A calf puller. Once in a while, a cow has a hard time having that baby calf, and so they get the calf puller out, tie the cable around the calf's legs, and jack the calf out of the cow. You get a few tons of pressure on there, calf comes right out, no problem. Well, one day, this farmer was out pulling a calf. It was a breech birth. The back feet are coming out first. That's not good, but it happens once in a while. So the farmer had the calf puller out there, and he's trying to pull the calf out of the cow. And a city fella stopped his car to see what on earth is going on. And the farmer said, "Have you ever seen anything like this before?" The city fella said, "I have never seen nothing like this." The farmer said, "Do you have any questions?" The city fella said, "Yes, sir. I have one question. It's been bugging me for 10 minutes. The farmer said, "Well, what's your question?" And the city fella said, "How fast do you figure that calf was going when it ran into that cow?" No. We're not separating the wreck here, fellas. It's possible for two people to be looking at the same thing, and one of them is getting the wrong idea of what he's looking at. The Bible warned us that was going to happen. Knowing this first, there shall come in the last days scoffers. They scoff, it says, because of their lust. There's no scientific reason for them to reject the Bible. The Bible says they did not like to retain God in their knowledge. For this cause, God shall send them strong delusion. Anybody that believes they evolved from a rock 4.6 billion years ago, I would say is strongly deluded. You'd have to have years of training and conditioning